Let's make sourdough discard cookies. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name's Abby and today we are going to be making my sourdough discard chocolate chip cookie recipe. It actually isn't my recipe, I found it on Google and I will link it below. If you're new here, please press that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 3K by my birthday in May and we're getting so close. So please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, but let's hop into this recipe video. Right now I have some butter melting on the stove. The first step in this process is to brown 1 cup of butter. This is only my second time making this recipe, and this is the second time in my life I've ever browned butter. So hopefully I do it okay this time. I feel like I'll be a little distracted with the video, but I think it's gonna be fine. And right now I'm just measuring out 200 grams of white sugar. Okay, 200 grams of white sugar. This is the tricky part with this browning of the butter. Because I don't kind of fully know how to do it. Okay, stir occasionally. Once the butter is fully melted, it will begin to bubble. Continue to stir constantly until the bottom of the pan is covered with amber specks. About 2 to 3 minutes. It's hard because it gets foamy on the top. Like it's really foamy. I don't know if you can tell, but this is what the whole top looks like, that foam. So it's hard to tell what the bottom looks like. So last time I just kind of Googled the right shade for browned butter and I would just pull it up on my spoon and take a look at it. I'm gonna try to show you. So see how it's all foamed up and it's kind of hard to see the bottom. So I just kind of pull up a little bit and kind of see what color it is. It's still kind of yellowy and gold, so I'm gonna let it cook a little bit longer and get more of a brown color. While I'm stirring this, I am gonna try to measure out some brown sugar. So this is just light brown sugar, and we also need 200 grams of light brown sugar. The recipe says 200 grams or 1 cup, but I think grams are more accurate. So I am just going to go by grams instead of the cup measurement. Okay, 200 grams of brown sugar and regular sugar. Let's check on this butter again. All right, it still looks pretty golden. It really hasn't even started to bubble that much. I did turn the heat down a little bit so it would cook a little bit slower to give me some time. It melted way faster than I thought it would, but it's still kind of gold color, so we'll come back to this when it changes into more of a brown color. If I remember correctly, last time it did change pretty fast, so I'm gonna keep a close eye on it. I am gonna mix up the sugars together just so they're a little blended, and then we will move on to mixing up the dry ingredients. Okay, I'm gonna continue stirring this butter and we're gonna measure out some dry ingredients. I just have this King Arthur all-purpose flour. We need, let's see, it says 2.5 cups or 355 grams, so we're gonna go with 355. I'm just gonna scoop it into the bowl until we hit however much we need. I did 356, I think that'll be close enough. And then we need 1 teaspoon each of baking soda and baking powder. For this, I am just gonna use a teaspoon instead of measuring the grams. I feel like our butter's getting close. I'm gonna stop for a second. Teaspoon. Teaspoon. The next ingredient calls for 3/4 teaspoon of salt, but I use salted butter instead of unsalted butter. The recipe does call for unsalted, so I'm just gonna do a little bit less salt. I don't think this will really have an effect on the cookies. I honestly can't remember what I did last time, but I don't think it affects anything. I've done that in other types of recipes and I didn't seem to notice that it made a difference. So we're just gonna do a little bit less salt to compensate for the salt in the butter. Our butter is starting to brown, so I'm gonna show you. Here it is. It's definitely like more of a brown color. This is the part where I'm like, I don't know, is this brown enough? I don't want it to get too brown. I don't know. I'm gonna like just keep stirring for like a couple more minutes and then just make the call and decide that it's good. Okay, I just quickly Googled a good shade of brown butter and this is about what color it is. So I'm going to turn it off and remove it from the heat. The recipe says to let the brown butter sit for 30 minutes. Well, it says at least 30 minutes. And it says if it forms back into a solid, that's okay. And I think last time I left the butter more melted because I was just excited to try it. But I'm going to wait and let it solidify a little bit more because I know in the past when I've made cookies, the consistency of the butter does affect the consistency of the cookies. So when you use more of a softened butter, your cookie is going to come out a little fluffier. And whereas if you use a melted butter, at least in my experience, they go a little flatter. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I want to try to get like a bigger, thicker cookie this time. And so I'm going to let the butter sit until it kind of just solidifies again. And the recipe also says I should be left with 180 grams of brown butter. So we put in a cup, which is 226 according to this recipe. I didn't measure the grams. But I think what I'll do, I'll let it solidify. And then as I'm adding it to the other ingredients, I'm just going to measure out 180 grams and use that. I'm kind of playing around with this a little bit, guys, but I will put the full recipe. I will link the website I found it on so you guys can play around with it too if you want to. And within this video, if I'm doing anything wrong or there's something I should do better, please let me know because I'm not an expert. This is the second time I've been making this recipe. So I don't know. I just really wanted to find a good chocolate chip cookie dough recipe and kind of master it. So I'm in the process right now where I'm kind of playing around with different ways of making it. So I'm going to let the butter solidify this time. And this time I am using all-purpose flour, but I saw somewhere, probably TikTok, that they suggested using bread flour in cookies and it does make them thicker. So does anybody have any experience with that? Have you used bread flour in your chocolate chip cookies before versus all-purpose? Does it make a difference? What does it do? Let me know because I have no idea. For this video, I wanted to do it how I made it the last time, like how I've been eating it in my videos and stuff. Besides, I'm going to change the butter part a little bit. But I didn't want to switch to bread flour in case it totally messed it up. So next time I think I am going to try bread flour unless somebody tells me like, no, don't do it. So we're going to let the browned butter sit for 30 minutes or more. It just says at least 30 minutes. It needs to come back to room temperature essentially. So I'm going to finish mixing up. I have the flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt. I'm going to use the same spatula I used for the sugar. Just kind of mix this up a little bit. Okay, there is a step to the butter I missed. You're supposed to remove it from the heat and then pour it into a mixing bowl. So I'm going to go pour it real quick before it solidifies. It's in a bowl and the recipe was right. I measured it out just to see and it was 180 grams, 181 grams of the melted butter. Okay, we have some time before the butter cools down and stuff. So I'm just going to cover everything with these reusable covers that I have. And I'm gonna go do other things and I'll be back once the butter is ready. Okay, it has been just under an hour since I left the butter and it did solidify. I didn't know if it would because I checked it at like the half-hour mark and it was still liquidy. So this rubber spatula needs something a little more firm. Okay, I just want to kind of mix it up a little bit. So this basically is just like softened butter is the consistency. I'm sorry, you probably can't really tell, but like softened butter. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the sugars first and mix that up. I know another reason for flatter cookies is over mixing. So I'm gonna try to just mix it easily and only mix until it's just combined. I'm not gonna let it get combined and then keep mixing. I'm just gonna try to take it easy. I feel like that's good enough. Next, we're gonna add 2 egg yolks. So I have my 2 little eggies here. Let's see if I can get the yolks. I remember learning how to do this in 7th grade home ec class. I think it's really sad that they've gotten rid of a lot of home ec classes in schools these days. I had the option of taking it all the way through high school. I took it all the way through middle school in 9th grade. And then in high school, we kind of did more of you could do cooking, sewing, and we had a child development class. I got to work with preschoolers. So I did that, but a lot of kids did. You can continue on to cooking or you continue on to do sewing classes. And I think it's just really good and important for kids and people in general to learn this stuff. And I know where I graduated high school, they completely got rid of all of the home ec classrooms and turned them into regular classrooms. And I just think that's really sad because these kids don't have an opportunity to learn how to get egg yolks like I did. I'm gonna go rinse off my hands. Okay, I'm just gonna mix in the eggs a little bit. And next we need just some vanilla. I like to get the pure vanilla extract. I don't know, that's just what I prefer. It is more expensive, but I think it tastes better. So you need 8 grams or 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna see if I can measure out 8 grams. That was 2, 3. I don't even know if I have enough in here. I have more in the cupboard though. Hello? Okay, that was 3. Let me go get my other one. They were out of the great value, so I had to get this little tiny McCormick one, and it's way smaller and it was more expensive, but I don't know. I like having pure vanilla. Okay, so we're actually at 4. Let's see if I can do this without 5. I'm trying to spread it out. 6, 7, 8. Okay, we're at 8. We're gonna stop. Vanilla, and then 3/4 cup of sourdough discard, or 200 grams. I am just gonna do 200 grams. I pre-measured this last night and it is around 200. So I'm just gonna dump it and see what we can get. I'm gonna try to like keep it in one spot. So if I need to scoop some of it out, I can without taking out any of the other ingredients. We're at 133. Like I said, I did measure this out last night just to make sure I had enough, because I also made tortillas yesterday. I got exactly 200. Okay, cool. And let's see. We're gonna mix all this together. Okay, here's the consistency now. And the next step is to add the dry ingredients. I'm just gonna add a little bit at a time to make it easier. Alrighty, the dough is mixed. Now I need to add the chocolate. So I am gonna add some milk chocolate chips. And I also bought this Cadbury dairy milk chocolate. So I'm gonna cut this up into kind of bigger chunks. And also I have these chocolate chips here. Last time I made these, I just had a hodgepodge of chocolate around. I had some different flavored Ghirardelli squares. Some of them had caramel in them. And so there was chunks of chocolate and there were chocolate chips. I just wanted more chocolate. So I might experiment with this, and you guys can too if you prefer dark chocolate, if you prefer something with like a salted caramel. I don't know, but I like to have a variety. It was fun. So I'm gonna cut this bar up. I'm not really sure the best way to go about this, but I don't want them to be super small because I like them to be a little bit bigger chunks. I am gonna weigh out the chocolate. The recipe calls for 350 grams of chocolate. I like to weigh it out because I am calorie counting right now, so I like to know how many calories I'm eating. I calculated last time and it does come out to be just under 300 calories a cookie, but I make them really big, so you guys could totally, when I show you how I measure them out in a minute, you could absolutely make them smaller and do less for each dough ball. I think I measure out 70 grams per dough ball, and you could definitely do less than that, make them smaller, bigger, whatever you want. The bar came out to be 98 grams of chocolate, and then I'm gonna add the rest to get to 350 grams of chocolate. It's so much chocolate. And I put most of this into the cookie, but I like to save and put like a bigger chunk or a couple of chocolate chips on top of the cookie dough ball, and I'll show you that. So I'm going to, I think I'm gonna like tidy up for a second, and then we'll get situated to roll out the dough balls. Okay, I'm adding in the chocolate, and I'm just using my hands. I don't know, I feel like I can kind of tell better that the chocolate's more evenly distributed if I use my hands versus just kind of mixing it with a spoon. There's probably a way better method to this, but we're just gonna roll with it. Okay. Have this giant dough ball, and I'm gonna use my food scale to measure the grams of this entire dough ball. Let's see. Okay, it's 1486-ish, and each dough ball for me is gonna be 70 grams, so I'm gonna divide 1487 or 1486, just switch to 7, by 70 and see about how many cookies I'll get. Okay, that should allow us to get about 21 cookies. Maybe like 22, depending, or one of the 21 will be like a little bit bigger. I don't know. So I'm just going to, every time I get a dough ball, I'm trying to figure out how to film this the best way so you can see everything. So I have the dough on the food scale. I'm going to zero out the food scale, get a clump of dough. Okay, that's 70 grams right here. I'm just going to kind of loosely put it into a ball. Then I'm going to set it on the baking sheet. And then I'm just going to pick like a piece of chocolate and just kind of set it on top so it has a little bit of chocolate on top too. And I'm going to do that with every single one. So every time I go to get a new dough ball, I'm going to zero out the scale, pull out 70 grams, roll it, stick it on, and add a little bit more of this extra chocolate on top. So I'll be back once I get all the dough balls rolled out. Here's how they all turned out. I added little bits of chocolate on most of them. There's a couple that don't really have any, but it's fine. Now, obviously, we're not gonna bake them like that because they would just like completely bake together. I just put them this close because they need to chill in the fridge for at least 2 hours, or the recipe says overnight is best. I'm gonna let them be in the fridge for 2 hours. I'm just gonna cover them with plastic wrap, put them in the fridge for 2 hours, and then we'll bake one. Okay guys, it's been a little over 2 hours and I am going to put the dough balls in this container and stick them in the freezer. I do have one left from the last batch, but I am gonna bake one of the cookies, but I'm gonna bake one of the new ones so that we can see if the butter consistency made a difference. So, but I am gonna put these into here. They're pretty hard just from being in the fridge. But this is what I do. I just stick them in this container, and when I want one, I just pull it out of the oven and set it on the parchment paper while the oven's preheating, and then bake it, and it comes out just fine. Oh, chocolate chip fell off. Darn. Okay, they didn't all fit in the big one, so I put a few of them in here, and I'm just gonna stick these in the freezer. And then I have one single cookie. I'm just gonna bake it on this parchment paper. I'm gonna preheat the oven to 375 and then bake it for 13 minutes. So I'll be back once that's done. Alrighty friends, the cookie's done baking. I'm about to take it out of the oven. Here it is. I'm gonna try to set you up so you can see what I'm about to do next. Okay, so you're gonna take something round like this while the cookie's fresh out of the oven. You're gonna circle it around, and that is how you get a perfectly round cookie. Look at it. I feel like it is a little bit thicker than the other ones. I don't know. I cannot wait to eat it. It does need to continue sitting on the cookie sheet for probably about another 5 minutes or so just to continue cooking. But yeah, that's the trick I learned, I think probably a TikTok, I don't know. Just to kind of do that as soon as it comes out of the oven, and then it's perfectly round. I don't know how you do it if you were baking like a bunch of cookies, but you probably would have to get like a bigger pan or do like several rounds of baking so that they would be spread out, I guess. I don't know. But it works for me because I just always make one at a time, or I'll throw a couple extra on if I have some friends over. But yeah, so we're gonna let that sit and I'll be back and we'll try it. Okay friends, the time has come. Here's what it looks like in all its glory. Has the little chocolate on top. Let's break it open. So good. I wish you guys could smell it. Okay, taste test. Really good. Love it. I don't have any milk, or else I'd be having a glass of milk with it. So that's unfortunate, but that's okay. Yeah, so this is my recipe. Like I said, it was not my original recipe. I did make a few tweaks, but I will share the original in a link below to give credit to the creator of the recipe. And like I said earlier, if you have any tips on anything I could do better, anything to make them maybe a little thicker. I don't really want to add more dough. I don't know. Like I said earlier, using bread flour would help. Not totally sure, but if you have any tips for me, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I think I might do a recipe video like this for my sourdough discard tortillas. So if you're interested in that, please let me know in the comments. And I'm gonna go enjoy my cookie. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.